everybody, you're back with the social science class. We were doing history chapter number 5, that is the Great Mughals. This will be my video number 5, in which we would be discussing about the Mughal court and the administration. In my previous videos, we have already discussed about the great 6 Mughal rulers, right? We have discussed all those rulers. Now today we will be discussing about how did those rulers rule, what was the type of court during that time, what type of administration was followed during that time. So that we are going to study in this video. So let us just start it now. So first of all, that Mughal court, like the other court where we have studied in Delhi Sultanate, that the court was very ceremonial. Remember, I told you the court was very ceremonial. There was a king or there was the emperor who used to sit on the throne, and the people who were at a higher position, they used to stand nearby the king or they used to sit nearby the king. And then based on the hierarchy of the power of the position, the people used to sit in the court, right? So this shows that the court was very ceremonial. Now, in that Delhi Sultanate only, we also discussed that Sajda and Paibos was performed at the court in front of the king. Sajda and Paibos we have already discussed in the Delhi Sultanate. I hope you all remember that. This is the homework for you. You need to recall what is Sajda and what is Paibos. Now, in this Mughal court, in this Mughal period, apart from Sajda and Paibos, there was Karnish and Taslim which was performed. Now today I am going to tell you what is Karnish and what is Taslim. The Karnish means putting this right head on the forehead and bending the head downwards. This was one thing which was done at the time of the Mughals. Taslim was, again, my right hand will go down and it will come like this up. Have you seen in this movies? I am sure you all must have seen this, right? So this is what is Taslim is. Sajda, Paibos, you all know. I just hope you know that. I am telling you once again about Sajda and Paibos. Sajda and Paibos means, Sajda means bending, stretching on the ground and bending towards the king. Paibos means kissing the feet of the king. This was the way to respect the king, which we have already done in Delhi Sultanate. Karnish and Taslim are the other two things which were included in Mughal court. Karnish, I told you, putting the right hand on the forehead, bending the head downwards. Taslim again means putting the right hand, taking it down and then raising it up. Taking it down and raising it up. This is what is Taslim. Clear? So this was about the Mughal court where these 4 things were performed. King used to sit at the top. Based on the power and the position, other people in this ruler, in his kingdom, used to sit. After this, there is other thing which is Diwan-e-Khas and Diwan-e-Aam. There were 2 halls which were made at the time of Mughal court. One was Diwan-e-Khas, other one was Diwan-e-Aam. So you will get the answer in the heading only. Khas and Aam. You know the meaning of Khas. Khas means special. Aam means general. Okay. So Diwan-e-Khas was for the private audience. Now what do I mean here by private audience? We discussed about the court. We discussed about the people who were there in the court. Now if they have to report anything to the king, I mean different departments are there in the court, so they have to give daily updates to the king. If there is one revenue department, one is military department, all these departments are there, they have to update king what is happening in the kingdom. So the heads of all the departments, they meet king in the Diwan-e-Khas and they give them update about things happening around in the court. Clear? And you can compare it to today's scenario, like if in a company there are some people who are heading their department, the heads of the department, they visit the boss and they give them update about what is happening in the company. So similarly, in that court, there were different departments. The heads of those departments, they used to visit king in this Diwan-e-Khas and they used to update king about what is happening in the kingdom. Clear? Divane Aam. Divane Aam is for general people. Where will people go if they have any doubt? Suppose I am the subject of that king. I'm having some problem. I want to talk to the king. Where and how will I convey my things to the king? So for me, this is Divane Aam. For the people or for the subjects of the king, they visited king in Divane Aam, where they used to share their problems with the king. They used to bring their problems in front of the king, and king used to listen them. Clear? Understood about the court, the setup of the court. We understood about where and how the meetings were done. There were two halls. One was Divane Khas, one was Divane Aam. Divane Khas was for private audience, that is for the meeting related to the affairs of the kingdom, and Divane Aam was for the public audience, where the people used to come and share their problems with the king. Now, how was the court of 17th century? That court, it was divided into two parts. There were two groups actually in that 17th century. One was liberals, one was orthodox. Liberals, orthodox, you know the meaning. If you know the meaning, you know the answer. Liberals were like who were religious tolerant, who had they were quite open in terms of their view. Okay, like we have studied about Jahangir and Shah Jahan. They were under liberals. They were dominant under Jahangir and Shah Jahan, because they both had a respect for everybody. So this group was dominant under these two kingdoms. Aurangzeb, I told you, he was an orthodox ruler. He was not at all religious tolerant. And then he again reintroduced some practices or some systems which were abolished by Akbar. So orthodox was dominant under the leadership of Aurangzeb. Clear? What did I tell you in 17th century court? That the court of 17th century, it was divided into two parts or two groups, that is liberals and orthodox. Liberal group was quite dominant under the leadership of Jahangir and Shah Jahan. Orthodox group was dominant under the leadership of Aurangzeb. Clear? So this was all about the Mughal court. Now coming to the Mughal administration. The administration of Mughals, we will be studying it into four parts. The administration is divided into four parts, that is central, provincial, revenue and army. We will be discussing this administration one by one. I will be explaining you central separately, provincial, revenue and army. Clear? I hope everything is clear till here now. Okay, so let us just start with the administration.
Now we have discussed about the Mughal court. Moving towards the administration. When we talk about Mughal administration, we can say that it was a centralized monarchy. The administration of the Mughals, it was centralized monarchy. Now what is centralized monarchy? It means where the ruler had the absolute power, or the real power, it was in the hands of the ruler. So under this administration, I already told you that there will be four types of administration which we will be discussing, which will be central, provincial, revenue and army. So first we will study about the central administration. So central administration, I told you this, we have already discussed the administration. It is into four parts: central administration, provincial, revenue and army. Now what happens in the central administration? Central administration, king is the supreme head who looks after both the civil as well as the military administration. And this king, he is assisted by different officers who have been given different departments, and those officials, they assist the king in all the work that is there in the kingdom. So who are those officials now? There is the Wazir, who is the Prime Minister. Then there is a Diwan, who was the head of the revenue department. Then there was Mir Bakshi, who looked after the military. Then there was Khane Saman, who looked after the needs of the royal household. Then there was Sadre Sadur, who kept a record of grants. You know, the king, they used to make some grants, they used to make some donations. So there was one department who used to keep a record of whatever grants and donations have been made by the king. And there was one Qadi who was the chief judge. You can compare all these departments to the present scenario, how we have different departments in our government today. Okay, similarly, at the time of this Mughal, there were different departments. The king was the one who was the supreme head, and then there were different departments in that kingdom who used to work or who used to manage their own particular department, and then they used to report to the king whatever was happening in the kingdom. So these officials which I have discussed right now, they were the one who were heading the department, and they were reporting to the king about whatever things are going around. Clear about central administration? Next comes the provincial administration. Now what happens in the provincial administration? See, in this, the entire empire, it was divided into subas. Empire means the provinces, it was divided into subas. This subas, it was headed by a governor. You can see I have made a small flowchart type of thing here, where I have written provinces, which is the empire. It is divided into subas. Subas were headed by there was a governor who was heading the subas, and that governor was known as Subadar. The Subadar or the governor, he was a link between the province and the ruler. Okay, he acted as a link between the empire, province and the ruler. Then this Suba, it was divided into Sarkar or district. Okay, and then these Sarkar or these district, it was again divided into Parganas. Parganas, it consisted of villages. Clear? What did we study in provincial administration? I told you that the provinces, it was divided into subas. Subas was headed by a governor who was known as Subedar. This Subedar, he acted as a link between the province and the ruler. Now this Suba, it was again divided into Sarkar or district, and this Sarkar or district, it was divided into Parganas. This Parganas, they had many villages. Now who looked after the town administration? There was a Kotwal who looked after the town administration. So what were the duties? He had to perform both police and civil duties. He caught the criminals, put them in jail. He maintained law and order. He saw that if every law is being followed by the people and they are not breaking any law, then he has to keep a record of all the duties or all the things which are happening around. And the office where he used to sit, that was the Kotwali. You know, we today also we use this word Kotwal and Kotwali. These two words are still used today in our police department. You all know that, right? So this was all about the administration, the provincial administration. Understood? After provincial administration comes the revenue administration. Now what is revenue administration? The revenue administration means that department which looks after the revenue. So what were the main sources of revenue during the Mughals? That was land and trade. So the different measures were taken by the king in both how to gain maximum revenue in terms of land and in terms of trade. Now talking about the land revenue, many reforms were introduced in this system so that they can know how they have to calculate the tax or how they have to gain the revenue from the people. For this, there was a new system which was started, which was known as Todarmal Bandobast. Now this Todarmal Bandobast, it was actually started by Raja Todarmal. He introduced the system. Now this Raja Todarmal, he was the finance minister of the Mughal Empire during Akbar's reign, and he was also one of the Navratnas in his court. Now I'll tell you what actually is Todarmal's Bandobast. See, earlier the land was measured with a rope. Okay, earlier the land was measured with a rope, but measuring the land with rope could not give the exact measurement. Now the reason was that the rope may shrunk when it was dry, or it was stretched when it was wet. So Todarmal, he introduced a new system of measuring the land with rod, which was made up of bamboo reeds. These bamboo reeds, they were joined together with the help of iron rings, and now with this there was the accuracy in the measuring land. So with these bamboo reeds, the help of this bamboo reeds, the measurement of land was done more accurately. And once the measurement was done, the land was divided into three categories, that was good, average and bad, and according to the fertility the revenue was fixed. So what did we understand till here? What did I tell you? That first of all, in the previous time the land, it was measured with a rope, but measuring the land with the rope did not give the actual measurement, because if you just imagine using a rope, the rope will be like it may get shrunk when it is dry, or it may get stretched upon when it was wet. So it was very difficult to calculate the actual measurement. So Todarmal, he introduced a new system with the help of these bamboo reeds. Now with the help of these bamboo reeds, the measurement was done more accurately, and after doing the measurement, the land, it was divided into three categories, which were good, average and bad, and then according to the fertility of the land, the revenue was fixed. Then in 1580, a system called Dehsala was introduced. Now what was the Dehsala system? See, under this system, a survey of crop production and their prices for a period of last 10 years was conducted, and after the survey, the average production and prices were calculated, and then out of that calculation, 1/3 of share was given to the king. Clear? Dehsala, 10 years. So it's quite clear from the name only that the prices for the crop production, it was calculated for for the past 10 years, and after calculation, whatever the amount come, the 1/3 had to be given to the king. This was called the Dehsala system. So this was all about the land revenue. Now next comes the trade revenue. Now the emperor, they encouraged both the internal and external trade. They also paid a lot of attention to the trade. They even imported many things, like many items were exported, like textiles, spices, etc. Clear? Understood revenue administration? Then comes the army administration. The last one is the army administration. Now what is army administration? Under army administration, the Mughal, they introduced the Mansabdari system. Now what is this Mansabdari? See, it comes from the word Mansab, which means rank or position, and this system was also started by Akbar. So this Mansab was divided into two ranks. First is Dat and then Sawar. Now what is Dat and what is Sawar? See, that means how many soldiers were there under the Mansabdar, and Sawar means how many horses he has to maintain. So Zat and Sawar means the number of soldiers and number of horses that he had to maintain, and the rank of that was from 10 to 10,000, but the rank above 5,000, it was generally given only to the prince. Okay, and the salary of a Mansabdar, it was although fixed in cash, but they were given in the form of Jagir. So when they were given a Jagir, they can collect their revenue from the Jagir that they have got. But this Jagir, it was not hereditary. When a Mansabdar died, he has to return back the Jagir to the king, and it would be king's wish that whom he want to allot that Jagir. So this was all about army administration. I'm doing a quick recap of all these 4 administration once again in short. So we started with the central administration, under which I told you that king was the supreme head and there were different officials like Wazir, Diwan, Mirbakshi, Khane Saman, Sadr Sadur and Qazi who assisted him in the day-to-day happenings of the kingdom. Then after central administration, we moved to the provincial administration, in which I told you that the empire was divided into provinces. These provinces were divided into subas. Subas was headed by a governor, okay, and he acted as a link between the province and the ruler. Then this suba, it was divided into sarkar and sarkar into parganas. Then there was a kotwal who looked after the entire town administration, and the office where he used to sit was known as kotwali, which we even use the term in today's time. This was about provincial administration. Then comes the revenue administration. There were 2 main sources of revenue, land and trade. Under land revenue, there was a new system which was started by Raja Todarmal, and since he started this system, it was known as Todarmal's Bandobast. Now, what happened in this? In this, he used bamboo reeds to measure the land, because in the past, ropes were used, but that rope did not give the actual measurement. So, bamboo reeds were used. After this, there was a Dehsala system. Under this land revenue system only, there was a Dehsala system in which the price of last 10 years were calculated, and after calculating it, the 1/3 of the share was given to the king. And under trade, there were many steps, there were many measures which were adopted by the king. He always encouraged the internal as well as external trade. After this revenue administration, we discussed about army administration. Under army administration, we studied about the Mansabdari system. In Mansabdari, we studied what is Mansabdari. Mansabdari came from the word Mansab. Mansab means rank or position, and this rank or position was given to the person in the king's empire. Now, how his rank was divided? The rank was divided into 2, that was Dat and Savar. That means how many soldiers will be there under him, and Savar means how many horses he has to maintain. And then his salary was given in the form of Jagir, out of which he can collect the revenue from the people. And this Mansabdari system, it was not at all hereditary. If a Mansabdar died, he has to give his Jagir back to the king. Clear? Then there was agriculture. What happened in agriculture? See, we all know the revenue that the king used to get. He used to use it for updating or upgrading his empire, give the salary, maintain the army. All these things were done. Then even the loans were given to peasants so that they can buy nice agricultural tools, they can buy better seeds. The king did all this to encourage agriculture among people, and they can bring more land under cultivation. Okay, so this was done. Then they paid 1/3 of the total produce to the emperor, but this revenue was reduced if there was any natural calamity. Okay, they did not have to pay if there was any natural calamity. Clear? Now, coming to the assignment, question number 1, mention the 2 sources of income for the Mughals. Question number 2, what happened to the Jagir of a Mansabdar after he dies? Question number 3, what do you understand by Dehsala system? These all 3 topics we have discussed. Hope you all have understood it well. So, do this assignment in your copy. Okay, bye-bye.